Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. This one's a little bit different. We're looking at the Samoa and its citizenship program and directly comparing it to Vanuatu. Obviously, they are both Pacific islands. Now, since 2017, Samoa has had a citizenship by investment program, which is essentially where you can buy a second passport or even your first passport, right? Or a third passport. And as today, not a single person has ever even completed it. Now, that is not a typo or anything like that. One application was filed and then withdrawn. There were zero successful citizens on this program, right? So what you're actually looking at is a 1.4 million investment, right? And again, when we compare this to Vanuatu, that's 120,000 US dollars, very similar passport. When you compare it side by side, we can see that Samoa simply is a useless passport program. Because at the end of the day, why would you basically like the same product, Vanuatu, Samoa, and one is 1.5 million, the other one's 120,000. So very interesting, strength and access, very similar. Okay, so I think it's global rank, I think like mid 40s is a Samoa passport. It's visa free on 129 countries. It's got full EU Schengen access, which is the difference because Vanuatu doesn't. That was stripped away from it. And again, it's also got UK visa free as well, China 30-day access, Canadian ETA, not visa free, but no full visa process, right? And again, Commonwealth access is very strong since Samoa is a Commonwealth member, right, guys? So Samoa's, passport ranks 35 places above Vanuatu. So they are different products, but very similar, right? The EU Schengen alone is probably the biggest selling point for it. But when we're looking at Malta passports that back in the day were costing 1 million euros, Samoa's investment is absolutely massive. So essentially you can buy your way into the EU for EU trade access through a Samoa passport, but it comes at a huge cost. And again, there's never been a successful application, right? When we compare Vanuatu, it's 130k, when Samoa is 1.42 million. The processing time is 3 years with Samoa, as with Vanuatu is 36 to 60 days. The residency required with Samoa is 15 days, every 3 years. So as with Vanuatu is none whatsoever. Again, the investment type in Samoa is to actually buy an active business there, as that's vastly different compared to Vanuatu, which is a non-refundable donation. Okay, visa free we've just gone over. EU Schengen access, Vanuatu lost it in December 2024, and for the UK access, Vanuatu lost it in July 2023, right? So China access, again, very limited with Vanuatu, as Samoa is 30 days. So yes, it could be a potentially amazing situation, but it just comes at such a hefty investment cost, right, into one of those active businesses over in Samoa, 1.42 million US dollars, right? So it's like you're not throwing the money away because you've still got the active business over there, but at the end of the day, when we compare it to Vanuatu, which is 120,000, it's vastly different, right? But the same, essentially, very similar islands, the same products, but one just has EU access and the UK access, right? Again, if this is your first time even speaking with me or listening to me today, it's Will from HPT Group. We help people with passports, corporate restructuring, whether that's trust formation, setting up an offshore company, helping with offshore banking, or even fintech licensing as well. We have a really broad range of clients around the board, right? But again, this is a passport program that could interest somebody out there. For me, myself, it does not. I already hold EU access passports, right? But then the Vanuatu is very interesting passport as well. We've gone and looked at it ourselves with me and my wife, right? It would be great to have a passport there, and it's such a cheap solution, but it just has not got that EU access, which is such a nasty selling point, right? Will I think that EU access will come back? No, the EU has been scrutinising Vanuatu a lot. As with Samoa, there's no scrutiny at all. It's a very clean reputation within Samoa, right? So potentially, people would even ask the question as well, is Samoa even legitimate? And it is, okay? The Citizenship Investment Act in 2016, okay, is basically the active minister is publishing the 2025 promotional material, and the US State Department's 2024 Investment Climate Statement confirm it's a completely legal operation. There is, the issue is zero market update, not legitimacy. No one's actually even applied for it. There was one person, as I mentioned, and then they withdrew their application. So why would you basically choose Samoa over Vanuatu? obviously EU, UK access, right? But again, you have to deploy 1.4 million US dollars into a genuine Pacific active trading business. Sometimes they're quite hard to find as well, right? You need to invest, and whether it's, you know, buying a beach bar, buying a hotel, whatever it is, right? You've got to actually find an active business that then the government is then happy with as well. So it's not as easy as you think to actually jump on this process. You know, it's not like Vanuatu where you're just donating $125,000 XYZ. Okay. Now, another big question is, can Chinese citizens apply? Yes, but again, the MCIL's disqualification for foreign government ties and state ownership is a practical barrier for you know, PRC linked individuals or entities, right? So it's worth flagging, you know, in terms of it's quite hard for Chinese to actually get this passport. And again, there's also talk, especially on Google, if you start reading about the Samoa passport, about this 15% fixed deposit rule, okay? So basically, 15% of the original investment, which is around 213,000, must remain locked within a account in Samoa, right? And it's a commitment and a liquidity check as well. And the government wants to see that you generally, you know, have some ties to the island as well. It's not just cycling funds through it, getting a passport and going, right? So yeah, obviously you have to keep a commitment there as well with the active business too. So the final question that you probably might be asking is 1.42 million, which is quite affordable for most of my clients actually. Is this, you know, is this all it costs? And the answer to the question to the no, right? On top of that, you've got professional fees, legal fees, the fixed deposit that has to be there for 3 years, right? The compliance costs, and again, the actual travel costs are going up for 15 days a year as well. And again, it's not the easiest country to go to, especially right now when we see the Iranian Middle Eastern war breaking out. We've seen flight costs go drastically up, and obviously this is going to go into the Samoa costs. There's going to be a limitation for fuel over there, a limitation for goods and services coming into the island as well. So potentially it's going to be a very expensive passport as well, where you can look at prices of the total cost, looking at 1.75 million in complete total. By the time you do this 3 years travel there and there, you're not going to be flying economy to Samoa, put it that way. And again, it's also quite an expensive island as well, especially if you do want to be living in luxury over there too, right? So there's pros and cons to this passport. The general pro is the UK and EU access. When we compare investments like Antigua, St. Kitts and Nevis, Grenada, we can see it's vastly different, right? You'd end up just going for one of these Caribbean citizenship by investment programs rather than the Samoa one. So that's my take on the Samoa passport program. Again, I've jumped into Vanuatu as well. It wouldn't be a product that I would advise to my clients, but again, potentially could be interesting, right? It's not just a flat donation, you are buying an active business, which is completely different to how the Caribbean CBIs actually play out, right? But other than that, guys, over and out. Hopefully you learned something in this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheerio.